What's up, family? This is Neil with another episode of Keeping Your Best Love. Now, we're going to do a three-part series about marriage. People get all googly-eyed about this time of year with the holidays. So Christmas is gone. The New Year's is coming up. Um, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. So a lot of people are considering marriage at this time. So we're going to do a three-part series. And what we do at the beginning of every broadcast is find out where your love frequency is. So when you think about marrying your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your fiance, how do you feel about that? Do you feel ecstasy? Like, oh my God, I can't wait to marry this person. Are you just happy? Wee. You just content? Are you fearful to marry this person and afraid to tell them? Or are you just miserable, just dreading the day that you got to marry this person? So think about that. So we're going to do it with three different questions. The first question is things that you need to make clear before you marry an individual. You got to make it clear. Things you have to be clear in your mind about. There's 5 things. The second question will be, or comment will be, or commentary will be, is reasons not to marry someone. If you're about to marry someone and then one of those reasons fit you, don't marry that person. And the third thing is reasons to marry a person. So these are just things that you need to consider. So the first thing we're going to go over is what you need to make clear to your significant other before you marry him. It's what type of spouse will you be? Will you be consistent? Will you be faithful? Do you are you gonna keep your word? Are you gonna how much are you gonna interact? Are you gonna help them with their dreams? Or are you just gonna just sit back and observe them, or just support them? I just need to talk about your goals in your life and your aspirations and your dreams and what you like to see happen in life, and correlate that together and to find out what type of spouse will I be to you? What are my intentions? Is it to make you happy? Is it to make you rich? I mean, what are we talking about here? Now, here's a little key to that as well. Before you marry somebody, you need to be happy with yourself first. How do you expect somebody else to make you happy if you're not even happy with yourself? So make sure your closet is clean. You can be the best spouse you can be to a person if you got your act together. If you don't, you're going to be looking to them to make you happy, and it'll never work. Trust me, it won't work. The toughest person to please is a broken person, or a person that doesn't know themselves. So don't even try. And look, it's not that everything's running perfect in your life, but it's when you look in the mirror, you like what you see. You love what you see. You love yourself. You love where you're going. You love what you're doing. So that person is not completing you. They're adding to your life. So you need to tell your spouse what type of person that you plan to be in their life. And things may change because life changes all the time, but you still need to have a clear intention on that. The next thing is they need to know what your expectations are. What do you expect your spouse to be? Because when people get divorced, it's typically because their expectations aren't being met. So you need to lay out what type of spouse do you expect them to be? Do they know your love language? Do they know what turns you on? Do they know that you like to be touched? Do they like compliments? Do they know that you like good deeds, acts of deeds, or do you feel close to them when they give you something? Whatever that is, you need to make clear what type of spouse you're looking for. Okay, and then you flip it. So your spouse needs to tell you what type of spouse they plan on being, and your spouse needs to tell you what their expectations are. Now, granted, you're never going to find someone that's going to fulfill all your expectations, so forget about that. But some things are deal breakers, some things you can work on, and some things you just compromise because they'll never quite be exactly the way you want it. At the end of the day, you just want someone that you're happy to come home to and someone that's happy to see you walk through that door. Pretty much. Okay? The second one being sexual expectations. Sexual expectations are very important. You don't want your spouse being needy, or being not satisfied. So talk about the frequency. I mean, do we do it twice a week, 3 times a week, once a month, 3 times a month? Set expectations there, because you might get caught up on life. Sometimes you may even have to schedule sex, like you schedule date nights, schedule sex. It just depends. So that person can get mentally ready to have sex. It could even go as further as the mother, the girl or the wife, prospective wife, may say, well, I just can't just jump into bed with you. I need for you to engage me early to get my mind ready for sex. You can't just come in and just expect me to just accept you right away. My mind's not even on that, So the lady might want you to have foreplay with her before you enter the bedroom. Now flip it. The man may expect you to take one for the team. What does that mean? That means you may not necessarily be in the mood, but if he has that need, you might just let him do his business, like Whoopi Goldberg said, and let him go to sleep, just to keep him satisfied. Now, and it's because sometimes with sex, sometimes it's about you, sometimes it's about them, and then you want most of the time that it be about one another. But that's part of taking care of your spouse, is taking care of their sexual needs. So that definitely needs to be discussed and made clear. Now, granted, it may change. Someone's health may change. So you might, definitely through the years, you might have to definitely look at what the person's needs are and then talk about it. Talk about it. You also may want to talk about different things that you want to try, things that you're accustomed to, things you want to experience or experiment with. These are things that they need to talk about before you get married. Okay? Third thing is money. The leading cause of divorce is money, M-O-N-E-Y. And normally it's the lack of money. So you need to figure out how you're going to structure your finances. So some people are spenders and some people are savers. If you got 2 spenders, that's going to be tough. If you got 2 savers, that's the best thing. But you need to know, okay, are you going to let me know about big purchases? I need to know about big purchases. I need to know what you're doing with your paycheck or not. It just depends. Do we have joint accounts or do we have separate accounts? It's no right or wrong. It's what works for what couple. So if you feel comfortable sharing an account and paying all your bills out of one account, then that's fine. And making sure they get paid. Or if you decide to get separate accounts, then you assign bills. So, okay, you pay the rent, we split the rent, or you pay the water, you pay this, you pay that, you pay the phone bill, you pay the car payment, you pay the insurance. Just decide how the money's going to go. And then make provisions. Because, granted, if money, gets scarce, what are you going to do? Discuss that. Talk about different options. Does someone need to get another job? Does life insurance need to be purchased? It does need to be purchased. I'm an insurance agent. If you need insurance, let me know. I'll take care of you. But anyway, those money situations need to be talked about. The fourth thing is children. Yeah, you got to talk about children. Now, let's say you have a couple and you don't have any children at all. You have to discuss if you want children or not. You have to discuss how many children that you want. You need to discuss that if someone wants a particular sex and it doesn't happen, are you willing to try again? So, for example, if he wants a boy and a girl pops out, are you going to try again to get a boy? You just need to talk about children. The other piece is more difficult. When someone's bringing children to the relationship, there's three things you need to look at. The first thing is how the other adults want to treat the children. Now, the school of thought is that you're marrying the children too. You're not just marrying that individual, you're marrying the children too. So what are the expectations there? Should you treat the children as if they're your own? You should. If you can't, you need to tell them about it. The second piece is how much authority is allowed to be used by the step parent. Can the step parent spank your kids, or should they just yell at them? You need to determine what type of discipline you're going to issue. So if a child talks back, do you give them a spanking or do you put them in timeout? Those things need to be discussed. How much influence are you going to allow the step parent to have over the biological child? That's two. Number three is big. How much will you allow the other biological parent, the baby daddy, the baby mama, to have influence over the relationship? How much? Is there a meeting place, or how do you handle it when you exchange the children? Who communicates about the children? Those are things, and how much will you allow that ex to have influence over your relationship? Those things definitely need to be discussed before you say I do. And the last thing is outside influences. You need to talk about outside influences. What I mean by that, work. You'd be surprised how many people are so engulfed in their job that they forget that they're a husband and they're a wife, and they neglect their husband and wife. Some people are so engulfed in church that they're so engulfed in church, not as much now because of the pandemic, but being so engulfed in church that they forget their spouse. Another outside influence is parents. Parents come meddle into your relationships. How much will you allow parents to have an influence on your relationship? Meaning, let's say the wife and the mother have a disagreement. Which side are you going to take? You need to look at that, because sometimes the wife wants you to take her side. Now, granted, as men, we want to be, because we love our mama, we want to be objective. So we just want to, we want to decide who's right, who's wrong, or whatever, and just be diplomatic about it. Sometimes that might not work. You need to talk about that. Look, I mean, if you say, listen, I'm not going against my mama if you in the wrong. But in her eyes, she says, I'm your wife. I don't care if I am wrong. You still supposed to take my side. You need to get those things taken care of, because that stuff can deteriorate your marriage, where your wife is thinking that your mother has more influence on you than she does. And that's not the right pecking order. The correct pecking order is God, your wife, the kids, then your mom and them. But y'all need to talk about that first. Outside influence from your friends. Are you going to be telling your friends y'all's business? Now, granted, people need a confidant, people need an outlet. So you might need to decide, okay, I'm going to tell my best friend Jerry, I might discuss a couple of things with him, or I might discuss a couple of things, with my girlfriend, Cheryl or whatever, and that's what you discuss. But what you don't want is discussing your marital problems with others that you haven't discussed with your spouse, because can't nobody change your spouse but your spouse. So if you told your spouse about an issue that is not being resolved, or you need a different perspective, then you may need a confidant, or you might just need to vent or whatever. But your spouse needs to know who that person is. And you also might want to decide, if that person is trustworthy. Because people will talk and spread your business all over the internet and all on Facebook and stuff like that. That's the conversation you need to have about outside influence. Friends. It's important to have an outlet, but there should be a balance there. You should never be going out with your friends if your wife is at home lonely. You should never be going out with your girls when your husband is being neglected. It should be a point to where you have taken care of each other's needs or wants or spend enough quality time together, and then you can go out and have your outlet. But it's very important. You don't want someone to be stuck to you to a point to where they have no life outside of you. Now, having a life outside of you doesn't mean that they're neglecting you. It just means that they have to, they were an individual before they became married. So if they're happy coming home to you, then that's fine. Now, granted, you have to be responsible with your outlet. You can't be, going places that you shouldn't go or being with people you shouldn't be with. That's another thing you guys need to discuss. So, in review, and I can go into more detail, but I think you got my drift. So, in review, the 5 things that you need to make clear before you marry is what type of spouse you're going to be, sexual expectations, money expectations, children expectations, and outside influence expectations. All right. So until next time, kind of think about, what was being discussed, and don't be afraid to subscribe to my YouTube channel. My email is coachingrelationships@yahoo.com, and keeping your best love. That's my page on Facebook. So I'm open for any type of comments or suggestions, or just criticize everything that I said. I'm open for all that. So until next time, peace and hair grease.